The Lord Jesus travelled around the northern part of Israel, and his disciples went with him. This would include the 12 specially chosen ones, but there were others too who spent time with him and followed him, listening to him and learning from him. We'll now read Luke chapter 7, verses 11 to 17. Soon afterward, he went to a town called Nain, and his disciples and a great crowd went with him. As he drew near to the gate of the town, behold, a man who had died was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and a considerable crowd from the town was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her, and said to her, "Do not weep." Then he came up and touched the bier, and the bearers stood still. And he said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." And the dead man sat up and began to speak, and Jesus gave him to his mother. Fear seized them all, and they glorified God, saying, "A great prophet has arisen among us, and God has visited his people." And this report about him spread through the whole of Judea and all the surrounding country. So they went to a town called Nain. Nain was about 20 miles southwest of the Sea of Galilee, and there was a large crowd with Jesus. And when they came to the town entrance, they saw another large crowd. There was much grief and sadness among the people of Nain, but there was one person there who was grieving more than the others. A widow was about to bury her only son. Now, life for widows was not easy. For this widow, there was not only the grief, the sadness of having someone you love very much being taken away like this, but for her, there were now big problems. Her husband had died previously. She had no other children. She was alone. She had no family. It wasn't the custom for women to get paid employment. So how was she to get the money to buy food for everything else? The Lord Jesus saw her. He saw her tears. He understood her grief, her sadness. He saw her desperate situation, and he had compassion. We've seen that the Lord Jesus healed all who came to him with diseases, all of those who were ill. He healed them because he had compassion. He cares for everyone. He had real sympathy and concern for this widow's sufferings. "Don't weep," he said to her. He begins by comforting her. He then touched the coffin, saw the lad's body lying there, and spoke to him. Yes, he spoke to the body. "Young man, get up." And the young man sat up, and he began to talk to them. The Lord Jesus gave the lad back to his mother. What joy that must have given her. What an amazing event. And fear came upon them all. They were in the presence of a power that was so much greater than theirs, and they didn't really understand him. They recognized that something very much out of the ordinary was happening, and they didn't have any idea what would happen next. But they did recognize Jesus as a great prophet, and that God had sent him. But many of them didn't really recognize him for who he was, divine. God himself come down to them. Here's something for us to think about. The Lord Jesus had compassion on those suffering. He understands our suffering too, and has compassion on us. He provides real comfort and encouragement for those who trust him and tell him of their pain.